Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, A True Story. The wind that swept across Portland, Maine in the early 1800s carried the scent of salt and pine. On a cold February morning in 1807, a boy was born into a household of discipline, duty, and old American ideals. His father, Stephen Longfellow, wanted him to become a lawyer, a man of law and order. But Henry Wadsworth Longfellow had another fire burning inside him, the kind no courtroom could contain. Even as a child, Henry was drawn to words the way sailors were drawn to the sea. He would sit by the lamp, scribbling verses, his young heart restless with the desire to carve a place for himself not in law books, but in literature. America was still a young nation, uncertain of its cultural voice, and Henry wanted to give it one. The student of languages. When Henry entered Bowdoin College, he carried this hunger for knowledge like a torch. He was different from the other boys, gentle, sensitive, but fiercely determined. His professors saw something rare in him, a discipline not only of mind but of heart. By graduation, he knew what he wanted, though his father still clung to the dream of law. But destiny had its own designs. Henry was offered a chance to travel to Europe to study languages. It was a dangerous, uncertain journey. In those days the Atlantic was not forgiving. Yet Henry accepted. In Europe, he devoured language after language: Spanish, French, Italian, German. He walked the cobblestone streets of Madrid, breathed the air of Paris, listened to the bells of Rome, and felt the ghosts of poets whisper in his ears. He was not just learning languages, he was gathering voices, melodies, and traditions to one day gift them to America. The first great loss. On returning, Henry began his career as a professor, but poetry was his secret pulse. His verses began to circulate, touching hearts, speaking to the struggles of ordinary people. Soon, his name was no longer confined to classrooms. But with success came heartbreak. Henry married Mary Potter, the woman he adored, but their happiness was short-lived. While traveling in Europe, Mary fell ill. She died suddenly, leaving Henry shattered, a widower before his time. Grief became his shadow. He poured his pain into words, creating verses that bled sincerity, love, and despair. It was as if every line he wrote was an attempt to call Mary back from the silence of death. But death does not answer. A nation listening. Despite his loss, Henry's fame grew. America, still young, still searching for identity, found comfort in his voice. His poems were not lofty puzzles for scholars, they were songs the common man could hum. A psalm of life, written after Mary's death, was a cry against despair, a call for courage, action, and hope. It spread across the nation like wildfire. Soldiers carried it into battle, mothers recited it to their children, and workers repeated its lines in factories. Henry had become what America needed, a poet for the people. The second love, the second tragedy. Life, in its cruel kindness, gave Henry another chance at love. He met Frances Appleton Fanny, a woman of grace and intelligence. Winning her heart took years of patience and persistence, but eventually she became his wife. They built a home together in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and for a time, Henry tasted true happiness. The house echoed with laughter, the cries of children, and the rhythm of a poet finally at peace. For 20 years, Fanny was his anchor. But fate, relentless as ever, struck again. One summer afternoon, as Fanny sealed envelopes with hot wax, her dress caught fire. Before help could come, the flames consumed her. Henry tried desperately to save her, burning his own hands and face in the process, but it was too late. The poet who had given America its voice was left scarred physically and spiritually. He grew a beard to cover the burns on his face, but no beard could cover the fire that had destroyed his heart. Twilight of a Poet. Henry's later years were marked by solitude and reflection. Yet even in sorrow, he continued to write. His work The Song of Hiawatha, inspired by Native American legend, and Paul Revere's Ride, echoing the spirit of revolution, gave America a mythology, a memory, a soul. He was not only a poet now but a symbol of resilience, a man who had faced loss upon loss and still gave beauty to the world. Visitors flocked to his home in Cambridge. Strangers stopped him on the streets. His fame reached across the ocean to England, where even Queen Victoria admired his work. But in the quiet of his study, Henry remained the boy from Maine, the dreamer with ink-stained fingers, writing against the silence of grief. The final chapter. In 1882, after a long illness, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow breathed his last. America mourned. Newspapers across the nation carried his name in bold letters, and thousands of ordinary men and women felt as though they had lost a friend. He was laid to rest in Mount Auburn Cemetery, not far from the home where he had written his greatest lines, and where tragedy had marked him forever. Legacy. Longfellow's story is not just that of a poet, it is the story of America itself, struggle, loss, resilience, and hope. He was not a man untouched by suffering, he was defined by it. Yet he turned pain into music, loss into light, grief into guidance. To this day, his words survive not in the ivory towers of academics, but in the hearts of those who still believe in courage, love, and redemption. And perhaps that is the truest measure of a poet, not how he writes, but how he teaches us to live.